Good morning. Welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're so glad you're with us. My name is Erica Bartlett. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm the chair of the worship committee. We are growing a community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to those who are joining us on Zoom today. And if you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so we can know more about you. This morning's service about faith is presented by Allen Avenue's Worship Committee. Lay-led worship is a tradition at this and many other Unitarian Universalist societies. At Allen Avenue, those of us on the worship committee either sponsor or present one such service a month. And on most other Sundays, services are led by our minister, Reverend Tara Humphreys. And just a note that the yard sale that was supposed to be yesterday has gotten moved to this coming Saturday, April 27th. And the insert says that it's from 9 to 12, but it's actually 8 to 12. So just be aware of that. And now I invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. And after the service, please grab a cup of coffee in the kitchen window and stay for conversation in the foyer. We encourage you to find someone you've never met before and introduce yourselves. Those on Zoom may stay and connect with each other online. And now let us center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the chimes.
Good morning, I'm Kate Sullivan. In this hour, may we be open to a rededication of treasured friendships, a renewal of spirit. May we relinquish the worries and anxieties of the past week, if just for this hour, and regain our strength through this community of faith. As we light the flame of the chalice, we invite those on Zoom to light their own chalices or candles so that we can be connected to each other. Our chalice lighting today is a responsive reading, and the words are going to be up there for you. Okay. How shall we begin to live out our free faith? Nurture this precious light. When we do, we are beacons of freedom, creating a safe place to rest, explore, and innovate.
Nurture this precious light.
How we keep this lamp of truth and justice affects how and whether we are transforming in equity through witness and action.
Nurture this precious light.
As we nurture this precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning isolation into community.
Anguish into peace, sorrow into joy.
Nurture this precious light.
As we do, our faith burns a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new and renewing way together.
Nurture this precious light.
With our living connections, with our growing stories, with our flame of freedom, moving
nurture this precious light together. You can join. Threw you a curve, I know. Together we turn this world from bleak to bright, one flame, one fire, one light at a time. Yay, team. And now I invite you to rise in spirit or physically for the opening hymn, number 194, Faith is a Forest.
But if we don't try new things, we don't learn new things. So it's all good. Today, we are going to explore two words. This is time for all ages, and this means all ages. So I need some participation from everybody. And so I'm going to look at two words, and one of them is faith, and one of them is hope. And they often get used interchangeably, but I want to say maybe there's a distinction between both of them. So when you hear the word faith, is there anything that comes to mind? What do you think of? In the back there. Go ahead, Ann. Belief, okay. Anybody else? Unfounded belief. Ooh. Wow. Okay. So, what's that? Patience, okay.
Blind faith.
Blind faith. Oh, we're going down the negative rabbit hole. Okay. Certainty, okay. Trust. All right. Good. Believe in yourself. Nice. When you hear hope, do you have anything else that comes to mind? Is it the same thing when you hear the word I hope? Maybe. Expectations. Longing. Future. Wish. Okay. What's that? Oh, Obama, yes. Hope and change, yes. For example, if you hear these two statements, I have faith that the sun will rise tomorrow versus I hope that the sun will rise tomorrow, do they mean the same thing? No. So there is a difference there somewhere. One definition of faith is a belief based in past experience and endures in the face of doubt, whereas hope is based on a desire for the future. Hope is generally optimistic, whereas hope is generally optimistic. For example, I hope to get an A on this test. I hope there'll be chocolate cake for dessert. Hope is not always based on experience or evidence. In other words, is there evidence that I'll get an A on this test? Is chocolate cake something out that shows up from time to time? It should, but not always. Whereas if I have faith that I will get an A on a test or that there will be chocolate cake for dessert, certain things or experiences need to be put into motion. Did I study? Does my studying process get me the results I want? It's finals week, so I'm thinking about tests. Are there ingredients for chocolate cake in my cupboard? Is someone willing to put those ingredients together and bake a cake? Yeah. In other words, faith requires belief that comes from experience and action. For example, if you take a packet of seeds, I can buy a packet of seeds and hope that I will get carrots, may happen, or I can buy this packet of seeds and have faith that these carrots will grow because I grew them before, I had a good spot in the garden for them, and I can make sure that the seeds have all the right conditions to grow. So when we say we have faith, it's more than just wishing for something good to happen. It's about setting up the conditions, looking at our experiences, and resting our faith in something solid. So, being the eternal optimist, I can hope that there will be chocolate cake for dessert, which will probably be met with disappointment. But if I bake a cake or buy it, I can have faith that I will most likely have cake for dessert. So I will ask John and Noel to come forward for the lamplighter ceremony.
Hey folks, my name is John Howard, and in a few moments, some of us will leave the sanctuary to enjoy religious education programming. But first, I'll invite someone to volunteer. Did you pick anybody, Noel? To light the lamp. Has anybody had some experience and want to try this? Looks like you've done it. Come on up. Come on up. And the lamplighter is entrusted to transfer the light to the sanctuary chalice, the light of the sanctuary chalice to the lamp, and then go forth to RE spaces where they will light the chalices there. And what is your name? Jamie. So Jamie will now light the lamp with a little assistance from Noel. Where is the lamp? Yeah, it's right there. We're really prepared.
Things are much more under control than you think.
Oh.
And I'd like to say for anyone who's new that similar to that Reverend Tara is in the pulpit most Sundays, our Director of Religious Education, Emily Jones, is with us.
So I'll repeat that so that people in Zoom land hears that. Noel has just mentioned that not only is our minister, Tara Humphreys, taking 2 weeks off, but today is a day that our religious education director is also taking a day off, which is why she's not leading this, but they have a lovely script that we can follow. And I always enjoy this point. If you're new to our church, we get to see a little parade. And one of the advantages I feel for having the screen is that you don't have to twist your body around and watch them go out the door. You can see them do it right on that big screen. So our children are invited to follow Jamie as we process out, and we'll see you down at the end of the hall. Now there's some music that we sing as the kids are going.
We
Good morning. My name's Mike Luce. I'm a member of the worship committee. Title of my piece is What Kind of Faith? So you think we chose a broad enough topic? Not too narrow, is it? I got and stayed overwhelmed trying to come to grips with how many different meanings and expressions of faith there are. It's not simple, like who has faith or not. What kind of faith? In what exactly? I mean, there's no agreement here in this room, for sure. So, in the end, I fail pretty miserably in pulling my thoughts together in any kind of coherent whole with, smooth transitions and connections. So I settled for a few bullet points. It really overwhelmed me. Some of the apparently strongest, most rigid faith has seemed to be surprisingly adaptable when called upon to reform their thinking by a strong leader. The golden rule seems to have all but disappeared from many Bibles lately. Some people will stay with the faith of their births, even if it rejects who they are. That's a strong faith. Some people will put their faith not in some institution or a grand idea, but only in a person or maybe a small group. Some people have faith in nothing and no one. Here's one basic pitch, never mind which theology. Trust me. After all, I have the one and only answer to life, the universe, and everything. So it's really in your best interest. Talk about fear of missing out. Don't you want to have faith in that? Can you afford not to? Not if the delivery's well done, or if it's the only one permitted in your society. Better fall in line. Better have faith. A faith that includes a lot of details can't afford to be wrong in any way. Any crack in that edifice puts it all at risk if you poke it. That's why so many are rapidly, maybe blindly defended. But a faith which is not detailed at all can be an excuse for not questioning. Though I'd rather not be too smug myself because I'm kind of at that end of the spectrum. I'm not quite an agnostic. I have had experiences which I believe put me in some kind of touch with the eternal, maybe as much as I could face. I couldn't tell you much, if anything, by way of specifics, beyond a sense of ultimate unity. And that's enough for me. It gives me comfort. If I tried to tell you more, I'd just be making stuff up. For the joys and sorrows shared aloud, and those that are unspoken and live in the wider community, let us take a moment of prayer. These words are by Kristen Green. Spirit of love and truth, help us to feel you in our breathing in and breathing out. Quiet our minds, even if only for a moment. Still our bodies, even if only for a moment. Soothe our souls in this holy moment. When uncertainty pervades, give us rest from worry. When fear rises, give us peace. When pain surfaces, give us a balm. Some of our spirits are so weary, some of our bodies feel fried, some of our minds feel frantic and uneasy. How long will this last, we ask in desperation. Spirit of life-giving love, remind us of the cycles of life so that we might turn toward the dawn, turn toward the thaw, and turn toward the rebirth of spring with new hope. Make that hope alive in us, O Holy One. Ignite that hope so it burns brighter than our fears, and may that bright hope shine for others to witness, that our faith might be a beacon and our love a lamp to light the way. O luminous Spirit, fill us with gratitude as we turn toward one another in the human family. Never alone on our journeys, always reminded of a greater love that holds all. Blessed be, may it be so. Amen.
My name is still Erica Bartlett. And to be honest, I've never had any deep religious faith, but I've known quite a few people who do. And I have mixed feelings about that faith. Sometimes I'm envious. The main example I think of was in the summer of 2008, when I found out that a childhood friend named Steve had drowned at age 33. I hadn't been in touch with him for some time, but he and his sisters had spent hours and hours with me and my brother as kids, and our parents had been friends. That's why I still sent his parents, Ron and Kathy, Christmas cards, and why I went to visit them after Steve's death. Ron and Kathy were both devout Catholics, and I'll never forget what Kathy said. She looked at a picture she had of Mary holding a dying Jesus and said, "I keep thinking that Mary lost her son when he was 33 too. And if she could get through it, then so can I." Kathy also said how she was sure that those who had died before, including my mom, had been there to greet Steve in heaven, and Kathy was equally sure that she would eventually join them there. Kathy clearly found great comfort in her faith, both in looking to Mary as an example and in thinking about the afterlife. It gave her something to hang on to, some comfort after such a tragic event. I couldn't help envying her a little for that comfort, although I didn't start believing in heaven. Other times, people's faith makes me angry, especially the idea that everything happens for a reason. I realize that some people find it comforting to think that we're all some part of a vast plan, but I don't. It's bad enough when I think of that in relation to my mom's death or Steve's drowning, but it's even worse when I think about the idea of a God planning genocide, slavery, child abuse, mass shootings, and more. A recent example is when, in February, some legislators in Missouri said that rape victims should be forced to have their babies because it's good for them, with the argument being that God does not make mistakes. I can't even begin to understand that kind of faith or the idea of a God who makes those kinds of plans or acts in such a way. To me, it's much easier to think of all the pain and suffering and tragedy in the world as being part of the general chaos of the universe. I also think we can make meaning of events, but that meaning isn't built in. What faith I have is limited to a few basics, like the fact that the sun will rise every day even if we can't see it. As for what happens after death, I have faith that my atoms will disperse to be reformed into something new. I like how Alan Lightman puts it in Seeking for Stars on an Island in Maine. Quote, "Those atoms will not know where they came from, but they will have been mine. Some will become parts of particular plants and trees. Some will become parts of other lives, other memories." End quote. That's faith enough for me. We are a freely gathered, open, and welcoming faith community supported by your contributions. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with our Unitarian Universalist values. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Project Feed, our local emergency food pantry at Woodford's UCC Church. You can find more information in your order of service. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed, through the donate button on our website, or if you're a member on Breeze. If giving through Breeze, just make sure to note if a donation is your pledge or a gift to our Share the Plate. And if you're visiting us for the first time, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
Good morning, I'm Rick Kimball, and this morning I am offering a faith trilogy because faith as a whole is divided into three parts: practical, impractical, and personal. Now, practical faith, excuse me, practical faith gets us through the day. Practical faith is the belief that if you look hard enough and long enough, you will find two socks that match. A belief with the concomitant trust that the drawer you are looking at exists and is not a dream. Practical faith is the conviction that the red light will go off and the green light will come on. So you don't have to break the law by shooting through the red across a dangerous intersection. Practical faith says that the hole you have fallen into has a bottom. It is not of infinite depth. It has a landing, a new place to stand and decide how to get out. Practical faith is the belief that it's worth racing across the floor to answer the phone because this time the call will not be spam. But maybe the latter is impractical faith, because the call is certain to be spam if you race to answer it. Impractical faith is the belief that whoever invented the heating steering wheel will be rewarded with eternal heavenly bliss, and that whoever invented the name of poop like a champion fiber cereals will go straight to hell. Archie Bunker had impractical faith in mind when he said, "Faith is something you believe that nobody in his right mind would believe." That takes us to religion, doesn't it? Impractical faith because it can't be proven, and it sometimes leads to disputes, even wars. Impractical faith, but boy, it can feel good if it's yours. Now to the third part of our faith trilogy, the personal part. Personal faith is belief in self, belief in humans, the conviction that you and I, though tiny specks in the cosmos we may be, can make a meaningful and positive change in history's long arc. Let me tell you a family story. My father was for many years the head of the math department at the University of Maine in Orono. When he died in 1967, we and his immediate family thought that the university might have done a bit more to recognize his contributions. We were prejudiced, of course, and said nothing, just let our hopes gradually fade through the years. Until January of this year, when suddenly, completely out of the blue, and more than 57 years later, we received word that a student of math in my father's time had died and left a significant legacy to the school, which it's decided to use it for establishing the Spofford Harris Kimball Chair in Mathematics. My father had made his significant contribution, and now it was recognized. Well, Henry Adams once said that a teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. But what Adams did not say is that we are all teachers. We are all activists. We are all little cosmic specks who can affect eternity. Yes, we can all have personal faith that we and our works are important. The university's action also suggests another contribution to our own baskets of personal faith, the belief that good things can happen to us even decades after our death. So, be of good faith, and blessed be. Today's choir anthem is "Faith is the Hope." You will probably find the tune familiar. The text is something I wrote the last time the worship committee did a service on faith, which was in 2010. Let's have faith that it will pass the test of time.
Nurtured in womb of
Exactly. Last year, my husband Will and I were in Cabela's looking for a motion detective camera for my brother who was interested in tracking the nighttime visitation of wildlife in his backyard. As we wandered the aisles comparing models, a man in a red MAGA hat approached us and asked about the models we were looking at. The discussion ensued about the pros and cons of each type and finally wrapped up with us wishing each other good luck with the models we'd chosen and to have a good day. No one was harmed in this encounter. It was actually pretty pleasant. And honestly, I've had very few interactions in my life when things have gone horribly south. Generally, no matter what their political leanings, people are well-meaning. You may be wondering what this has to do with faith, and I will tell you. I put my faith in the best intentions of people. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I find that most people are not nefarious or intentionally trying to do harm. Most of the time, people either misspeak, don't follow through, or are focused on their own problems and don't always register the people around them. Yes, I know there are bad actors and not everyone should be trusted, but I'd rather go into a situation a little on the naive side than to succumb to cynicism or mistrust. In my many years as a teacher, I can't remember a single student that I actively disliked or had a really bad interaction with. I have had apathetic students, angry students, students who cheated. I even had one student who was working quietly in my English class one day, and the next day I read about his arrest in the paper. But even he seemed like a victim of bad choices, not a violent or awful person. An incident in my UU church in Illinois put this faith to the test. A convicted sex offender was looking for a church to attend. Why he picked ours, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe our principle about the inherent worth and dignity of all people was a hopeful sign to him. For once, the situation wasn't hypothetical. This was real, and the reaction was harsh. Parents were up in arms. This person couldn't be trusted in our church and around children. I agreed that he shouldn't be around children, but the parameters were pretty strict. He would attend services with a guardian. He wouldn't be allowed around children. But even then, many people wanted nothing to do with him. The minister at the time disagreed and allowed the man to attend. He did for a while. Basically, he attended service with his minder, entering just before the service began, and very rarely staying afterward during coffee hour. I'm sure all the nervous looks and avoidance didn't make him feel like sticking around. After a few months, he stopped coming. But in the meantime, many parents left the church and took their children with them, never to return, arguing that we had willfully put children in danger. Was this man not worthy to enter our doors? Can some people not be redeemed? It still bothers me to this day. If we profess the inherent worth and dignity of all people, are there exceptions? Does our faith have limits? At the time, I also had children attending the church, so I did understand parents' worries, but I did side with the minister's decision. However, not having gotten to know the person other than an awkward hello at coffee hour, I feel I was just as judgmental as the parents who left. Another situation arose a few years later. A youngish man started attending church. He was quiet and socially awkward, and he was trying to find his way spiritually after being raised by evangelical missionaries and spending most of his youth in Brazil. He would often hang out after church in the Sunday school room, interacting with the young children. The local busybody whispered in my ear that we should be keeping an eye on him. At first, my radar was up, and I did trail him around for a few Sundays, but I quickly realized that this was a reactionary response from someone I knew who was deeply paranoid about people. Turns out that after getting to know him, he was just a shy, awkward guy who had spent a lot of time leading youth ministry groups when he was growing up. He just naturally felt comfortable around kids. As he became more integrated into the church community, he joined the adult discussion group and spent less and less time in the Sunday school room. The situation could have very easily spun out of control if I had allowed the rumors to spread and assumed the worst of this person. In the end, I think we were all just looking for connection. whether it's discussing motion detection cameras or looking for a spiritual home. Acceptance is easy when the person agrees with us and behaves in ways that we expect. But I have faith that if we go beyond our boundaries and assume the best intentions of people, we will find connections where we didn't think any existed. We just need to have a little faith. Please stand as you're willing and able and join in singing hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open.
Let's sing it 2 times.
Oh, 2 times, okay.
These closing words by Cynthia Laudrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns and our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to faith continues. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. Our worship has ended, and our service begins.